Hey guys, I'm Dov, and today I'm back with more Total War Warhammer 2 multiplayer action. We're here with the High Elves today, going to be taking on our cousins the Wood Elves. So I've gone with a very cav-focused build. We've got Techless here, 4 units of Illyrian Reavers, we've got 3 Spearmen, 2 Archers, 3 units of Silver Helms, and 2 Dragon Princes also, so a lot of cavalry stopping power. For my opponent, he's got a more infantry-based force here, some War Dancers, a couple Wildwood Rangers as well, some Eternal Guards with shields, Winterheart Guard out on the side, Wardens of Kithral on the opposite side, Spellslinger Lore of Life with the Glady, and we also have some Way Watchers, of course, here. Right off the bat, I'm going to net these Wild Hunters of Kurnos with my Light Wizard there, or sorry, with Techless, obviously. They are going to get charged, and although they will do some good damage in return to these Illyrian Reavers, this is a really good situation for me in terms of resources. We're also able to get through and get on these Way Watchers here with the Illyrian Reavers on this side. And Reavers with their good stats, good charge bonus, good melee attack and defense will be able to do quite a bit. The Glade Lord comes into support, and the Overwatch fire from the Hagbane tips there. We'll be able to see those Illyrian Reavers off, but now the Dragon Princes come in for a second push. Going to come in here, get a good charge. The Wild Hunters actually are a pretty good counter for Dragon Princes because of that anti-large and magic attacks. So I'm probably staying a little bit overlong in this engagement, but over here again, Dragon Princes with that heavy shock damage just annihilating these Way Watchers. Very high value target taken down almost immediately. Meanwhile, the infantry fight's just about to get underway, if you could call it that. I'm actually pulling my infantry back just slightly to try and get a little bit of decent engagement here. You can see I've got the Silver Helms in a position to support this engagement, so feeling pretty good so far. We're going to start to unload some arrows, send the Spearmen in to do their melee engagement here, and you can see the bow fire hasn't done a whole lot so far. Unfortunately, these War Dancers do catch that unit of Archers, so not the best. Meanwhile, over here, if we have a look, you can see the Way Watchers have been shattered, but unfortunately my Dragon Princes, again, just staying a bit overlong here. Over here you can see they're chasing the Wild Hunters of Kurnos, getting in some good damage, but at the same time they're also taking quite a bit of damage as well. Looks like Shield of Thorns, very good physical resistance for the Wild Hunters there. They'll be able to tank that damage quite well. You can see they're taking very little damage in that sustained fight, so my opponent's staying pretty good there. He's been able to do quite a bit of damage to the Dragon Princes, and I've sort of mismicroed them a bit, but Techless is still very healthy, and a very, very nice Fiery Convocation here from Techless just rips apart these Wildwood Rangers and those Eternal Guard as well, so some great value there. Managed to get the Archers in a secure position to keep firing. My opponent maybe could push up and around here, but he's protecting the back line from these Silver Helms, so even though the Silver Helms haven't done a lot yet, they're just, you know, the threat of them is keeping these Winterheart Guard and the Eternal Guard from pushing on my Archers. And you can see we've been able to shoot the War Dancers to death as a result there. Obviously the Fiery Convocation was a big part of that as well, so I'm going to try and pull these Winterheart Guards out of position to break their bracing bonus. Obviously don't want to get too caught up here though. You can see over here the the Illyrian Reavers coming back from route, the Dragon Princes as well. Very tattered at this point, but still on the field. Going to be able to sweep up and around here. You can see the Silver Helms. Again, I'm not really wanting to commit really heavily to an engagement yet until we can just continue to get value from these Archers as much as possible. We are getting some really nice value here, shooting into those Wildwood Rangers. And now finally the Hammer charge in on the rear of some of these tattered Wood Elf units to just try and clean them up. So obviously the Silver Helms don't really have the defensive stats to stand and fight against these elite Wood Elf infantry, so we definitely want to just try and take them out as quickly as possible. A beautiful charge there on the Winterheart Guard, who are obviously unbreakable, but over here, these Wildwood Rangers and the Eternal Guards are going to get broken off, and you can see what I'm talking about. Just the HP damage is too much for them. Over here, Techless is in a bit of trouble. His protecting Dragon Princes have been netted, and he's getting caught up by the Spellslinger and by the Glady as well. She's got her Deadly Onslaught popped. Is that? Yeah. Yep, Deadly Onslaught, and then, yeah, Techless is going to pop the Potion of Chiroi and get a bit of healing and that damage resistance as well. And here come the Silver Helms, still completely healthy, and they're going to come in here and just run over these very tattered units that are left. A very nice Shield of Thorns there. Again, physical resistance and extra weapon damage. Very nicely done to help mitigate the effects of that charge a little bit, but of course I can just pull away there. And the Dragon Princes and Reavers line up on the other side. Infantry fight still mostly the same. My Spearmen are getting very tattered, but again, they've bought enough time for these Archers to really pay for themselves, which is what I ultimately needed. So, good stuff. Balance power slightly in my favor at this point, but things are still very close. But here we're able to get some decisive charges on some very tattered Wood Elf units, and this is often the problem you run into as the Wood Elves is even though you have good anti-large AP infantry, they just, because they're so light, it's very easy for their bracing bonus to get broken and, pulled out of position, and obviously, especially if they're running, they'll just get hammered on the charge, even your relatively expensive units. So yeah, good stuff. At this point, we're going to keep the Silver Helms moving, just try and zone out as many of these targets as we can. The Winterheart Guard here are fighting to the bitter end, of course, and now the Glady and the Spellslinger are going to get back and get into the Archers. Again, I've already got some really good value from them, but obviously we don't want this to happen if we can prevent it. So here come the Silver Helms again. I definitely am a big fan of Silver Helms in this matchup. I think there's a few matchups where actually these guys could be pretty decent. And, I mean, they're just sort of your cost-effective mid-tier shock cav, right? And if you want to go... Ooh, their skirts are freaking out a bit. But if you just want to go super wide on cav, like I did here, this is really the way you can do it. An overcast net of Ammontok going to freeze all these units in place. One of the archers gets charged by a Glade Rider to interrupt them. But, again, the Silver Helms sweep in from behind. And, yeah, Shield of Thorns there to help give some physical resistance to help mitigate some of that bow fire. Of course, the Glady only has 50 armor, so she will take quite a bit of damage from that. And at this point, things are looking pretty dire for the Azrai, as, yeah, the Asur are taking the day here in this very snowy climate, no doubt somewhere up in the north of, looks like Nagaron, so I guess they're fighting over who gets to sack the Dark Elf town in the distance there. And yeah, it's not looking great. Again, the tattered units here, because of their leadership especially, will hold out until the bitter end, but the Silver Helms just kind of charging around, cycle charging these various units here. It is going to take a little bit of time into this late game, but one more Fiery Convocation on these Wardens of Kithral. Wardens of Kithral are a really, really strong unit, but again, that lack of armor is a bit of an issue. Don't actually catch too many of them with that, but it's fine. Things are pretty well in my favor at this point, so we're going to just fast forward a little bit through this late game as we do clean up the last of the Wood Elf troops. Of course, they do have very good leadership. You can see between the Glady and the Cav, she's just about able to beat down those Silver Helms, but again, just too many numbers and very good performance from them. 2 XP chevrons there, 1 there, so let's go ahead and take a look. Very well played to my opponent. And yeah, 102 kills, 101 kills, 96. I'm sure these guys were just shy of picking up a chevron, but I really like the Silver Helms here. They ended up being the MVPs. I mean, obviously, Dragon Prince's 82 kills and a chevron, also very nice. These ones kind of got run over a little bit, but they ended up sort of being a good distraction piece, right? Because then a lot of my opponents, like these Wild Hunters of Kurnos and the other tools, were busy dealing with the Dragon Princes. Of course, the Reavers as well, the one unit that got in, did a bunch of damage to the Way Watchers is very key. And again, just having lots of bodies of cav means that you can really chase the routing units, charge tattered units, and just generally have that battlefield control presence. Likewise, Teclis also gives you very good battlefield control, of course, Nets of Ammontok. Also was throwing out the, what is it, I forget the name of the spell. Let's go ahead and just take a look. I actually don't use this spell. Flaming Sword of Ruin, that's it. I don't use it super often, because typically you want to take Lore of Fire with units that already have fire damage. But Teclis does have Kindle Flame, and since I didn't have any fire damage in that army, I figured this Flaming Sword of Ruin here gives magic and fire damage, so it's very good against units with physical resistance or units which are weak to fire, which obviously the Wood Elves have quite a bit of both. If we go ahead and have a look here, just to point out, like the Cavalry, for example, Wild Riders do have physical resistance, 20%, which is their main defensive stat. Of course, Sisters of Thorn are practically ethereal at 40% physical resistance. So again, having that Flaming Sword of Ruin just to be able to get that targeted magic damage on either some Dragon Princes or Silver Helms especially, can charge in, get some very cost-effective work done. Likewise, again, War Dancers have physical resistance. I'm not sure about Wildwood Rangers. It looks like they do not. They actually could use some, to be honest, but yeah, so like the War Dancers, your Wild Riders, Sisters of Thorn, all of that's going to be good, and then obviously the tree units speak for themselves, right? They have physical resistance and weakness to fire, so obviously those spells are going to be very strong. Firebark Elders are maybe going to be a pick here. They're not super common. I actually quite like them against the High Elves personally, but I mean, the AoE fire effect here is actually straight up fire resistance, so even if you don't take a tree-focused build, having that fire resistance, you know, because your opponent's likely going to have some kind of fire damage, so you can just layer these guys in with your high-value infantry. Of course, they also have charge defense, 90 armor. They're just super tanky in and of themselves, and so they can block up opponents' cavalry charges and just sort of have that mass to yeah, just block the cavalry models more or less and keep them from totally walloping your infantry. But it's definitely a tough one. I do think that Wood Elves potentially have a tough matchup here. There's definitely some different things you can do, but this time the Elftonia, if you will, the mass Cav High Elves. I don't know. I'm sure you guys will let me know there's some High Elf character who's known for just mass cavalry. But anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button so every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.